While not quite the action-packed banger that the weekend looked poised to be, the nuance and implications of the Spanish Grand Prix is yet another testament to just how exciting the rest of the season is set to be. The difference after 66 laps proved to be the result of the first corner, with Lando Norris enraged with himself following the race at his first corner laps, which allowed both the winner Max Verstappen and his future roadblock George Russell ahead of him in a move that really put a spanner in how everyone thought the race would go. With none of the forecasted rain, no safety cars, and not even a yellow flag thrown, it was down to the individual relationships between man and machine to secure the best possible position. And both Max Verstappen and the aforementioned Lando Norris, bar the slip up into the first corner, proved to be the cream of the crop. The Mercedeses of George Russell and Lewis Hamilton also had a strong showing, and in a field of mixed strategies and many variables which saw those behind them threaten to punch on through, the Mercedes drivers managed to hold firm in a far cry from their early season woes, and it seems that the Scuderia behind them have seen their season go in the opposite direction. Want to know where it all went wrong for Ferrari? They could be under threat of slipping away, so just what can they take away from this weekend? And stick around, because Mercedes has proved that Montreal wasn't a one-off, so how far can they go this season? Following on from Monaco, Ferrari seemed to have slipped backwards in what initially seemed to be an anomalous Canadian Grand Prix, but after a fairly stagnant Spanish Grand Prix, it seems that the Scuderia have indeed fallen from their second place perch. Earlier in the season, Ferrari looked best equipped to take on Red Bull, two very capable drivers, one of which with nothing to lose after being let go, and the other one with a lightning-quick one-lap pace but with a history of dropping it when it counts, seemed to be in the optimum position to keep McLaren behind and close the gap down on Red Bull. However, it now seems that the McLaren of Lando Norris is the primary challenger to Max Verstappen after all, and both Mercedes cars have now taken the initiative in regards to progressing up the field. The difference at Spain was the performance of the drivers and the starting positions of the Mercedes cars, given that Ferrari seemed fairly impotent in regards to challenging those ahead, with them slipping back at every opportunity, even with Sainz and Leclerc being in a good position to capitalize on undercuts. I don't even think that it's that far off at all to suggest that, had Piastri not suffered quite so much misfortune earlier on in the season and managed to secure a better qualifying position on Saturday in Spain, then the Ferraris would have firmly been outside the top four. The Ferrari drivers didn't help themselves either, as even on a weekend where they weren't convincingly quick, they managed to threaten to further destabilize their race. Early in the race, the pair touched wheels at the first corner, with Leclerc showing irritation at his teammates' brash overtake. In a race where the objective is to move forward and challenge the Mercedes drivers, taking time to fight with each other really doesn't seem like the smart thing to do, though to give Carlos the benefit of the doubt, he did have greater pace at the time. When Lewis Hamilton later did the same to him, however, Sainz was less than pleased, with the Spanish driver doing what we've heard him do a few times this season now sadly, and that is to whine at his race engineer, demanding penalties and position changes instead of focusing on the task at hand. Hamilton saw it in a different light, however, correctly claiming that the Spanish driver had left the door open for him. In regards to the contact with his teammate, Leclerc was quite measured after the race, saying, "It's okay, we will have a discussion obviously, I'm sure everything will be fine. We discussed beforehand that it was part of the race where we had to manage the tyres as much as possible. Carlos took the opportunity to overtake, which is a shame as that put us on the back foot and damaged my front wing." Leclerc would go on to indicate that the collision may have been the difference between where they finished and a greater points haul. However, Carlos would not take kindly to this, with him continuing his frustrated tirade against his teammate and replacement after the race, with him having some pretty choice words for his teammate. Too many times after the race he complains about something. Honestly, at this point of the season, I was on the attack. We were on a used soft tyre. I passed Charles. I don't know if he made a mistake or was just managing a bit too much. I think I was trying to do what was required as a driver. He elected to manage more. Currently, with Leclerc losing second to Norris this weekend, Ferrari drivers take up the third and fourth spot in the Drivers' Championship, with their early season points haul currently making all the difference between them and the Mercedes drivers. Oh, and Sergio Perez, who continues his plummet down the Driver Championship. Surely then, ill relations between the drivers is only going to make things worse, as not only is their current form taking a nosedive, their off-track dynamic also seems to be souring as the season goes on. The question is at the moment on this current run of form, just how long will it be until their drivers' championship positions are usurped and their positions in the constructors lost to the no longer chasing pack? It's fortunate for Ferrari that Oscar Piastri hasn't been able to fight further up the field, with the points gap between the McLaren drivers being the second largest to Red Bull's points canyon that stretches between their drivers. They better hope that their drivers stay away from each other moving forward, as it seems that they are getting closer and closer to a more meaningful contact down the road that may result in them losing those championship spots far quicker. The thing is, if it was just McLaren that had better form in recent weeks than Ferrari, then it could be passed off as McLaren doing what they've done for the past 2 seasons, starting slow and then bringing major upgrades. But the fact that Mercedes, with a car that, at the start of the season, was absolutely nowhere, is now finishing ahead of them and beating them on track is of massive concern for the Scuderia. No longer is 3rd and 4th the worst case scenario if Norris and Verstappen maximize their weekends, it's now 5th and 6th. And if Lando and Max's teammates get their season straightened out, then that could become a very worrying prospect indeed. The initiative being with Mercedes is clearly something felt by their drivers, with both of them being incredibly positive following the race, as George Russell claims, "We will be going for a win in the next couple of races. Max and Lando are doing a great job and are still ahead of us. Austria will probably be a bit more difficult. We have struggled there historically. Silverstone is the next big test. We feel we have the momentum with us, a clear direction of where we need to go in order to make that next big jump. We knew P3, P4 was the maximum and we had to protect that result. I was a little bit disappointed not standing on the podium, but Lewis did a great job." The fact that Ferrari isn't even mentioned in Mercedes' plans to move forward perhaps suggests that they already feel that their upgrade trajectory will continue to propel them beyond the Maranello team, as Toto Wolff echoed his driver's sentiment after the race. When asked if there was more on the table this weekend and whether there is more to come from Mercedes in the coming races, Wolff had this to say: "I don't need to be disappointed. We are on a trajectory and that is important. We have struggled for so long and are maybe lacking a couple of tenths, but we will be going more and more and more." Mercedes' upgrades have certainly been highly effective, and their use of a death by 1,000 cuts approach in regards to fixing the myriad of minor issues that resulted in a pretty dogged early season contender, well, it seems to be working out. So the promise of more and more upgrades to come seems to indicate that Mercedes are confident that they've found their direction and they are now following it in full force. The little and often upgrade strategy is quite an interesting one really, as perhaps it's the most effective way to tackle the budget restrictions while also taking on the longest season in F1 history. Funnily enough, if Mercedes are proven to be right in the long run to have the best approach, then in the fastest sport in the world, it may well be the age-old case of the tortoise beating the hare. So it's now Ferrari's job to prove those currently ahead of them in regards to form wrong. However, it doesn't appear that they're going to be the front runners that they were threatening to be at the start of the season, having been at the whims of a double DNF in Montreal, as well as a stagnation in pace which has been capitalized on by Mercedes and McLaren, who are both claiming that more upgrades are on the way. It's yet to be seen if Ferrari can push on to have a stronger finish to the first half of the season, and if they don't, then they need to come back much stronger after the summer break. So what do you think? Can Ferrari correct their course, or are they doomed to plummet behind the pack? Either way, their drivers need to sort it out if they're going to have any chance of holding on for the rest of the season. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.